What up, what up? This is Coach Sean, or Sean the Wolf. Just got finished a conversation with a student of mine after class, Mark, and just talking about just kind of struggling with like worrying about being the new guy and not really feeling like he knew much, right? It's something that's always been front of my mind recently, and that is like this imposter syndrome that we feel like we have sometimes, or these expectations or pressures that we put on ourselves sometimes that are unneeded, especially when we start something new, because we put these unnecessary pressures on ourselves to be great at something we just started, right? And we're comparing it to people that's not their start, right? They're more familiar with it than you, and they're not as new as you. So we sometimes compare our where we need to be to people that have been there much longer than us. And I don't think we're being fair to ourselves often. And you equate that in jiu-jitsu, it's a first day white belt trying to being insecure or apologetic about not being able to execute an arm bar as well as a blue belt, for example. The truth is, you don't really owe anyone an apology. No one expects you to be at the level of the experienced employees or the experienced athletes on your second day. And if someone was, they're being unrealistic and they're actually being the asshole. You're not being an asshole. You are on brand for just starting something. So I think a lot of times we put unnecessary expectations on ourselves. Then we feel like we're not living up to them. We feel like we're letting others down because that's what their expectations of me are as well. And I just want to remind you that that's not the case. If it is the case, you might be at an unhealthy place. That's possible. But most times, if you're at a healthy place, you've established that you like where you're at and the people around you, please believe that their expectations are set for where you are now, not where you might be in the future or anyone else's now. You're now. So as a coach, if you are on your second day in class and you don't remember how to do an arm bar, okay, that's pretty much on brand for second day in class. So I kind of gave him some good news and some bad news. Like, one, you're not alone. Everyone does it. Everyone forgets and loses things and doesn't feel adequate to where they want to be and should be in the expectation game. So you're not alone. Good news. Bad news is it never, ever, ever ends. Never ends. It'll never go away. You'll always have these expectations, sometimes healthy, sometimes unhealthy. It won't go away. You'll have imposter syndrome always. So the good news is that you're not alone. The bad news is that it never ends. But I think you start liberating yourself from those expectations. It is expected on day 2, anywhere, at any job, in just about any sport, any scenario, for you to make mistakes. And if you aren't allowing yourself to do that, you are adding unnecessary pressure on yourself and doing yourself a disservice. So I want to encourage everyone out there. I think it's important to liberate yourself from expectations that you can't make mistakes, because that's where we learn and grow from. No one is expecting you to be perfect. So stop putting that expectation on yourself. Allow yourself to have failures. Allow yourself to grow. And as long as you are trying to progress and grow from those failures, you're on the right path. And the truth is, when we do this to ourselves, we feel like we're alone. The truth is, we're not alone. Every single person goes through this. It's one of those things that, when you're a kid, you feel like you look up to adults in your life and you assume they have their shit together. And you grow up and realize, oh, they didn't? They didn't have their shit together either? And no one does, in fact? We're all struggling and we're all battling and we're all navigating our way unknowingly through life in one scenario or another. Once you realize that, you stop giving yourself such a hard time and you start allowing yourself to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the progression. Every correct rep is part of the progression. Every incorrect rep identified and grown from, also part of the progression. Start reclassifying what your mistakes mean. The minute you start reclassifying what they mean and what you can do with them, you'll stop beating yourself up for having them. So if you're out there and it's your first day at anything, or you're new to anything and you feel new and you don't feel like you belong or whatever, guess what? Whoever you're looking up to in that industry, in that field, in that sport, in that anything, they once were right where you're at now. We've all been there. You're not an exception. You're just like the rest of us. You don't have your shit together. Welcome to the club.